recording the oral history interview of Guido Borella, A Company, 119th Armored Engineer Battalion, 12th Armored Division, United States Army, World War II. Taking the oral history Friday, the 20th of July, 2017, at the 71st Annual Reunion of the 12th Armored Division. First off, Guido, I want to thank you for agreeing to sit down with me. So let's start at the beginning.
When World War II started, etc., I worked for a company that made some parts for jet engines, for turbo charges in the engines that the propeller turned around and allowed planes to fly over 10,000 feet. So we got started there. Then one of my friends who was with us, he said, "What are we doing here?" And his brother was in the Marine Corps, and he was wounded in Guadalcanal. Right after that, we decided, well, let's go in, right? So anyway, we go down to the Marine Corps. They threw us both out. We couldn't pass their physical. We said, "Oh, let's go to the Navy." The craziest thing in my life was let's go in the submarines. And we couldn't pass the physical either. The Army takes everybody, So we were down enlisted in the Army in New York City, and so we went through every part there, and during when my friend was being tested, he read off everything, and the doctor there says, "Change the chart," right? And I couldn't read that chart. He had memorized it, just so we could stay together. So I wind up in the Army, and he didn't wind up in the Army. So everything we did to stay together never happened. So anyway, then I wound up in Fort Dix in New York. Got a basic training. After the basic training was over, so we went to Camp Campbell in Kentucky, and that was in about, I think, November of 42, etc. And as we go on, there was a guy there who says, "Go into that line, you go into that line, you go into that line." Fortunately, I asked the guy, "Do you have engineers?" He says, "Good, that's the way you go." So that's how I wound up in engineers.
Tell me a little bit about life at Camp Campbell for an engineer. What did you learn? How did you learn?
Well, the one thing with the engineers is that you learn how to destroy or build, etc. And we started building. First we went out and cut trees down with and it's only two-man saws, no such thing as electric. Then we learned how to build a bridge, etc. And all of a sudden we were building bridges, and A, B, and C companies, and who will build the bridges faster? Remember, a Bentley bridge is built all by hand, and B company beat us out. Anyway, so and they were able to build a bridge over the highway in 3 hours. Think about that. For instance, the bridge that we built in Wurzburg, etc., in 24 hours, 210-foot bridge, all the way over, dropped it on in one day, and we built the bridge, etc. Got a light equipment through. In 48 hours, we rebuilt that bridge up higher, got our tanks across. And then we went back into this place in the line, etc. Remember, we were the fifth track on the spearhead, because the armored engineers. And our job was, if something was ahead, we had to blow it. We had to go and blow it. If we had to take a minefield, we had to take a minefield out, etc. And it was a strange thing for a kid of 19 who enlisted, and he went through all that. But I had a great life.
Now, after Camp Campbell,
yeah.
Did you participate in the maneuvers they had in Tennessee?
Yeah.
Was that when you had the competition for building the bridge?
Yeah.
Okay. What can you tell me about Camp Barkley?
Well, Camp Barkley, we just did more of everything we did, but it was more finite. You know, you learned so much. And now when you came here, you had to. Everybody had to work in sync. You know, when you work in sync, etc. For instance, we would go out. One of our main things we learned, and then when we were in battle, we know why they did it, and it was to drive all night, you know, and all you had to do is look at two small red lights in the car in front of you, right? And as you went along, etc., and that happened fantastic when we were in Germany. We would, instead of fighting during the day, we went all night long and surprised the enemy in the morning. Anyway, where was I?
Barkley.
In Barkley. In Barkley, we did everything and fine-tuned everything we were doing. And also then everybody knew each other. You know, you know who you could that we had to depend upon, and we had a very good spirit of corps. You know, we were lucky we got into that group. So, and from there we went to England, etc. And so in England we had to pick up our equipment and get it working and etc. So we went on continent, you know, everything was in sync also. So we landed at Le Havre. In Le Havre, then we shot down. We went high speed all the way into Colmar and that area, etc. And we didn't have too many battles. We had small battles here, but nothing really important. And then we joined the 7th Army. Once we joined the 7th Army, then we went too far back. We went to a lot of those cities back there, etc. And my first experience in one time was we were being shelled as we were on a certain road being shelled. I think the houses were there. Nobody was in the houses, etc. All of a sudden, screaming memes would come over, and when they came over, you know, they had their missile. What was they? Anyway, the.
Mortars or rockets?
Mortars, yeah, mortars were screaming memes. They had whistles in the back, etc. And they didn't contain too much of anything except it was all explosive, etc. And when they bombed, etc. So we ran into the house first, and when we ran into the house, I always get under the kitchen table there, because all the kitchen tables were very heavy too. Then the bomb hits the house. Anyway, the bomb hits the house, and all of a sudden, somebody's taken me out of the rubble, etc. And a strange thing had happened to me then. I had, my whole body was like a bomb. It took me a while to realize who I was again. But then after that, I was okay. So from then on, we went on to we went to small little battles here and there, and then we hit Hurleyshine. The day before the 17th of etc. We were building bridges. We were building side bridges to go over the canals, because they had everything zeroed in, from what I remember. And we get this place, etc. And the captain says to me, "You take that." So we had have soldiers here and there to protect the group. And all of a sudden, I'm walking like this here, and something has swished through me. and it was an 88. It spun me around. I got on the ground. I crawled to the end. Anyway, etc. And I got started there, and then we started calling for fire, right? Guess what? The first shells that we were running over came where we were. and I guess somebody says, okay, now, you're too short, and the next ones are over.
What more can you tell me about your experience at Hurleyshine? How long were you
No,
there?
but at Hurleyshine, this was the day before the big battles on the 17th, etc. Well, and that same night that we were tired and everything, and they came in and touched on the shoulder and says, "You go in his infantry." So because our infantry was lost. And even though the battle was the second armor, the second combat command, when it was through there, we were so close that whoever was running things, they said, send the A company in there. So we started going across, etc. They got shells here and there, and then we saw soldiers coming at us, in White Park. Remember, this was ice and snow. And we had them all beaded in, but we had very good training. You don't shoot until somebody tells you can shoot. And we were ready to shoot until a tank came in and says, "Hold, they're our own." They were what was left of an infantry coming back. And I remember after I started working in the company, in our company, we were sitting at lunch, right, and we had three small divisions, etc. So one of the fellows in our dental group says, we were talking. He says, I'm going to my reunion, etc. I said, "What happened?" He said, "The 12th Armored." I said, "I was the 12th Armored." "What did you do in the 12th Armored?" He says, he was in the armored infantry. I says, "Oh," I said, January 17th, in the biggest battle that we were in, etc. I says, we took the place of the infantry, and I said, "Were you coming? Is that when you were coming back?" He said, "Yes." And his name was Frank Riley, and I remember him. But a few years later, he passed away, and I lost contact with something I knew was actually there. So, anyway, but then all hell broke loose, etc. Borella was all around us, and then I got hit in the shoulder, and back here, etc. But I didn't know what was hit. All of a sudden, he's hit my heating up. I put my hand in the back there, handful of blood comes out. But nothing was, I wasn't hit any place critical. I had a wound, etc. And then somebody says, "Go back," and there was an ambulance back there, and I was back, and then I went and got to the Dijon Hospital. I spent a couple of weeks there. And by the time I was finished, then I asked him, "Look, I was worried about being a double and go to somebody else. So can you get me back to my outfit? Because I knew everybody there. I was uncomfortable, etc." So they called up and they said, "Oh, because people were in a rest area after Hiroshima, etc." And so I got back to my outfit. And then I could continue with them over, and then we went over the Rhine. After the Rhine, we found out later we were in the mystery division. Also, our nickname for Hurleyshine was the suicide division. Anyway, so we got over the Rhine. Somebody built a pontoon bridge, and we took a pontoon bridge over the Rhine with all our equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you remember much about, or do you have any stories about the time that we were under the Third Army for the push to the Rhine?
Yeah. That's when we had to change all our we had to paint over all our numbers, etc. And then when we got in, then we really rolled like mad. We went to Ludwigshafen, and I didn't realize how fast we were going. and then we turn what, north and west. Is it west? Yeah. North and east. So anyways, and we fought a few battles here, but not too much. And then we wound up in Würzburg. And Würzburg, we called for the bridge because they had blown the bridge, and we built that bridge. 24 hours we got our light equipment. In 48 hours we got 35-ton tanks across.
Now, you said this was a pontoon bridge, right?
No, this is a Bailey bridge.
Okay.
Because and you built it in sections, and for instance, you built a section, you moved it over, you built a section, and then that would put on rollers, and I kept building all the way back here. Because that way, then we had the only piece of equipment that we used, which was power, was the Brockway trucks. The Brockway trucks came out and blocked it over. And when they blocked it over, then we took all this bridge here and needed that, and then used that to finish the bridge. Remember, the fifth wheel, fifth unit in the spearhead was a squad of engineers. If we were up front, if something was in the way, we had to go and blow it, because we learned to build or to destroy. And anyway, as we were going along, so we got into every time we got into something, we had something to do. But I think the worst job you could have is in recon, because that's the first one out, and then etc. And but I was lucky I was in the engineers, because I stupidly asked them. I liked to be the engineers, but you know, life was pretty good for me. All this engineering stuff came with me whenever I needed something. And then we shot down and took the Dillingen Bridge.
Mm-hmm. Now tell me about the Dillingen Bridge.
Yeah, well, we were supposed to go take one out of the bridge, and they blew that bridge, and we shot, and there's where, when I said, remember, we drove all night long under those 2 lights, etc. Well, that's when we just moved like mad, etc., fast as possible, and we passed it, and we got there early in the morning. And somehow, either killed somebody or whatever. The recon did a job of capturing that bridge, etc. And then we had to go underneath and pick out all these TNT. They were all in blue boxes, Italian made, blue. Italian made, but what do you call it? Of course, they has the bombs and everything connected in there, but. It was crazy. Anyway, we got there, and then the aircraft came out, etc. One of the airplanes, came down so long, and one of our people shot it down, and went right into the mud on the side, etc. And all you saw was out of the mud smoke. I had a great life. Anyway, once we got over there, then we shot down to, remember, capturing that bridge was a godsend. It shortened the war, because as we went through, everybody started going through, etc. And one this way, one that way, and whoever did the planning did a beautiful job, and then one of the last places we hit was Landsberg. In Landsberg, we get there, and what a stench of flesh burning, etc. And we got there too late, because if we got there earlier, we could have stopped some of it. But we got there too late, and they burned them right in the buildings. Yeah, but we didn't go deep into it. But the tankers went all the way in, and the tankers saw a lot more than we did. We saw something, but they saw thousands of bodies on the floor and all that stuff. So, and by that time the war was over. So that's my story.
Wow.
I probably have a lot more stories, but I can't remember right now. Remember, I'll be 95 in a couple of weeks. and I still have those memories.
Well, sir, I want to thank you again for agreeing to sit down with us.
Yeah.